Thanks, Joe. Now, in this extreme cold, humans aren't the only ones at risk for hypothermia. Livestock is also impacted.
Our Evan Hickley looked into how farmers are keeping their animals warm during these frigid conditions.
Travis Edwards hopes to keep the cows warm and mooing at Penn State's Dairy Cattle Research Center. Edwards is a manager at the center and says cows are pretty resilient to the cold as long as they're dry.
Their hair coat actually does a really good job of insulating them. But the problem is if it gets wet or caked with mud and it mats down, then they have a very hard time regulating the body temperature because they lose the insulating factor of that hair coat.
But that doesn't mean water is out of barns altogether. Edwards says it's important to keep the cows hydrated, especially in the cold, since dehydration can contribute to hypothermia. He checks the water often to make sure it doesn't freeze. Another thing he checks on, bedding. Having extra hay for insulation certainly doesn't hurt. So we've covered cows, but how do other farm animals respond to the extreme cold?
Pigs are the most susceptible. Is not having much fur on the outside. They are actually much more like humans. Chickens, again, have feathers for an insulating factor. Cows and sheep really have an advantage because the digestion of their feed produces a tremendous amount of body heat. And so actually one other important thing that you always want to make sure is that they always have feed available to them, particularly in this type of weather.
Which means as long as they're eating, cows and sheep can handle the extreme cold better than the extreme heat.